What's up, y'all? This is the Recovery Plugs, where we trade in our dope plugs for recovery plugs. This is my guest, Miss Christy. What is your last name?
It don't matter.
It doesn't matter. She don't even want you. You don't need to know her last name. Just know her first name is Christy.
It's Christy.
Christy, yeah.
Christy.
That's how you find her on Facebook.
It is.
Man, it's so awesome to have you. You have a lot of people that love you, that follow you, that root for you, that just want you to do an amazing job. Yeah, you're awesome. So, where'd you just come from?
Work.
Uh-huh. Where do you work at?
I work at Octapharma.
Doing?
I am a quality assurance technician. So
what?
Yeah.
Well, explain what that is, because that sounds like some important
stuff.
stuff.
When I started there, I was just sticking fingers. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
I started at $9 an hour. Maywood had just helped me get my GED, and I was a 5th grade dropout. That's something important to know. And I started sticking fingers there, and I slowly worked my way up, 50 cents at a time.
What's that?
And then now I go through all of the work from the day before, and well, really all the time, all the work, and I write a report so that FDA can read it, so that they don't shut us down.
So the company needs you. Feels good to be needed, huh?
Everybody's replaceable.
That's what's that way. True. So this show is about recovery, and you want to tell your story? I mean, we're dying to hear it.
Dying to hear it?
Dying.
All right, well, I think it's important to know what led up to me being absolutely miserable in my own skin. And it started off when I was a little kid. My mom tried to do what was best for me, and she tried to give me a better life by giving me to somebody that, was capable of giving that to me. Mm-hmm. And of course, at the time as a little kid, I didn't come to realize what she was trying to do for me until I became her. That's pretty deep, but that is what it is. Mm-hmm. And this man, his name was Richard. He raised me up right. I never heard a cuss word, in front of him. Like, it's just, I can't even go into too much detail about how good my life was with him. Normal, okay? And I got close to one of his girlfriends, and she was like a mother figure in my life. And she got mad at him. She betrayed me. She stole me from him and sent me back here. Mm. So I came from San Jose, California, a very normal, structured life. We can throw the money into it because he did have money, but that really wasn't what it was. It was the security and the safety and the normalness that he had offered me to Midtown Kansas City. Culture shock, really bad. Completely uncomfortable with my family because they were like strangers, and it was total chaos.
How old were you then?
I was 5, 6. And unfortunately, they left the decision for me to go back or to stay with him up to me. Mm. And as a little kid, I not only did I feel, like I can remember all these feelings, you know what I mean? Like I felt bad for wanting to choose him.
Right.
Okay? And then also, even though it was chaos and it was scary, there was absolutely no rules.
Right.
There was no rules. So I chose to stay with them and be miserable for many, many, many years. So we'll fast forward, oh man, so 8 years old, I started smoking cigarettes. I immediately started inhaling. I got lightheaded off of that. So when it's kind of weird, people, my gateway was cigarettes, right? So started inhaling, enjoyed it very much. 9 years old, weed. Between the ages of 9 and 12, it was crack cocaine and weed. And then I was 13, 14, and my wonderful uncle, he is kind of the beginning and the end and everything in between about my story. He was sick too, just like us, and he did not make good choices for us. And bless his heart, just everything kind of revolved around him. He was like the main dynamics in our family here. And he came in one day, and he had like 5 or 6 boxes of matches, cases with boxes of matches, hundreds of thousands of matches. And he's like, come over here and help me. And I'm like, I can remember this vividly too. I'm like, why would I help you that I don't even like you? And he goes, well, you're going to help me with this because it's going to get everybody all cracked. And I said, okay. And by the end of that evening, I had learned how to make my first color. And so that started. And, at the time, we were just little kids. We didn't know anything about it at all. Like, if you don't do drugs with the mailman, if you don't sell drugs to the mailman, there's no such thing as federal. Mm-hmm. Like, that was our only, you know what I mean? Like, we had no idea there was anything federal. Well, we're going to fast forward through a couple of years of that, and my brother, who had just turned 19, ended up getting popped for 17 years. And, man, that put, I felt like I smoked my brother away, because we were all doing what we did, and he was the only one that got in trouble for it. And I tried to kill myself a couple times over that, because just the guilt was so much. at that time, I decided I wasn't going to touch meth ever again. Like, I'm done with that. I'm cool. I'm not doing it. And I started drinking. And I started drinking. Well, first let me tell you how I felt the first time I did meth. It felt like everything uncomfortable in me just melted away. And I felt like I could do anything. I could accomplish anything. I could read a book in a night. I could draw. You know what I mean? Like, everything that I ever wanted to do or be, was there, and it allowed me to do that because, at the time, in the beginning, it starts you off, you just feel better about everything. And then it just slowly, within a year or two, I was a mess. I was just strung out bad, up for like 20 days at a time. They couldn't cut me off because when you know what I know and you live in a house with that type of stuff, you can never, there's always a supply.
Right.
Well, so when my brother got popped and I started drinking really bad, and I just replaced that one with the other. And I ended up having a daughter. I had a relationship with a normal man, and he died. Within 12 hours of his death, because I had went, it was like, 2002 to 2007 without meth, 2003 to 2007 without meth, just nothing but drinking, except for when I was pregnant with my daughter. And I ended up high that night because I knew that if I didn't want to feel, then I can get high and it'd be fine. And it wasn't fine, of course, but it slowly turned me into a monster. Like, before, it was only getting high with my family, and so I never really experienced the street life or any of that because the streets came into our house. We never had to, and it was like that up until the day he died, and I did not ever have to do anything or go anywhere else to get high. As a matter of fact, when I was in the streets and I was down and I didn't have anything and I wanted to do some meth, all I had to do was go home. And, I used to hate him for that. And actually now, after getting in the program and getting to have relationships with women that didn't have that, and seeing it helped me to be grateful, you know what I'm saying? Because I never had to do that for that. I never had to be that type of female for that. And I used to be very hateful and very judgmental. I really did females wrong because I judged them for that. Right. But come to find out, had I not had my uncle, because I would have been in an addiction either way because I was so miserable with who I was. But had I not had him and not had those resources, who knows what I would have ended up doing in order to get high. Where was I at before that?
2007.
Okay, baby's dad died. Things get really bad. I ended up in the streets, and I learned, because all my life something bothered me, I would be sad, and I would take it out on myself. You know what I mean? I wanted to die. I tried to commit suicide many, 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 many times. Hospitalized for it. I became really good at real attempts and getting out of going to the hospital. You know what I mean? You just tell them it's all I used to hold grudges against people who involved themselves in me trying to commit suicide. Like, if you called 911 for me, I really hated you, and I was angry with you for, why'd you get my business, is how I felt. Yeah, it was a bad deal, and I learned during that time that you could hurt other people, and you didn't have to hurt yourself. And so if you start hurting, you take all that out on other people, innocent or not, you know what I mean? You feel a lot better. And we're going to just fast forward through all that because, like I said, like I was telling you before we started this, there's not really... don't get me wrong, it's not all bad. There are fun times, you know what I mean? When I get to thinking about and going through it, I can still feel a little bit of the energy, you know what I mean? Because there was some good nights and there was some fat licks and those gave you these certain types of feelings, but none of it was worth it, and I just don't want to glorify any of that. So we're gonna fast forward into... Everybody knows the infamous story about me where I tried to run my car through a girl's house because she stole my cell phone.
I didn't hear that story. But
oh, you don't know that story?
I don't know that story.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll get to that story in just a second. We're going to talk about how I got there. So everything came to, as a matter of fact, the last time that I did meth was this night. It was Thanksgiving, 2014. We don't have to get into a bunch of details of that either. Make a long story short, my uncle died that night. And I will tell you this part of the story because it's important, because it's how bad my life was and how I felt inside. So there was a brief moment prior to him leaving that house that night where I thought I was shot in the head. I got hit with the gun went off, and this also explained how sick I am too. One of my first thoughts that I had when he hit me with the gun went off and I thought he had shot me was, I really liked his style. Like, that's what you do. when you pull it, yeah, I'm so serious. Like, it was like, yes. And then I'm sitting there, there's a lot of chaos in the room. Of course, that individual had control of the room. I had this, I can't even, the calmness and the peace and the euphoria I had from thinking that someone had done what I had been trying to do to myself for so long. I wanted to die. And I had this peace. Like, I can't even describe the peace. And I've tried to compare it to a drug, and I was racking my brain to try to think, like, a Dilaudid, you know what I mean? Like, I start going through this list of drugs of what I can compare it to, and I can't even compare it to nothing, because I've never felt even high, or even, when the drugs, when you first start them and it feels good, I never felt this peaceful. Because I thought I had an opportunity to die, and someone else had done it for me. That's how bad it was. All right, so we'll fast forward through that. I go crazy a couple times after that, but there's like a 7-day stretch where things are a little foggy, but not too bad. Todd Collazo, you know him, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's we've known him for 20-something years probably. Well, he showed up at the house to check on me and my grandma, him and Jill. And we had a conversation. He was just checking on me. It wasn't really that important. It wasn't that in-depth, but when he left, I snapped. And one of the individuals that was, I don't know what he was. I don't know if he was a part of it. I don't know, whatever. He was there. He was a part of the situation that happened where my uncle got murdered. His baby mom lived a couple blocks up, and her daughter was there, his daughter. Well, that night, a little bit before all that went down, his daughter had sat on my lap, and I had fed her Thanksgiving dinner. And in my mind, this is how sick I was, when I snapped, I went up to that house with intentions. Whether I had to bust in the door, whether she's going to open the door for me or not, I wanted that food back out of this little kid. That's where I was at with it. Of course, and thank God, she called the police. I couldn't get in the door. I was trying to kick it in. She called the police. The police pull up. They put me in handcuffs. I'm like, all right, I'm going to jail. It is what it is. And they took me down to my grandma's house, and they put me on the porch, left me in handcuffs, and they got to talking to my grandma. And that officer told me, he's like, you're not okay. Like, you're mentally not okay. I'm like, you think? And he's like, well, you got 2 options. You're going to go to jail. And he goes, I don't really think that's the best option, because you're going to be out. As soon as you see the judge, you're going to be out. I can't really charge you with too much. He said, or you can go to treatment behavioral health. And I said, oh, okay. I'll take myself down there in a couple of days. I said, yeah, I'll go. It'll be fine. And he's like, no, I'm going to call an ambulance for you right now. I was like, all right, I know how to get out of there anyway. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and get in the ambulance. Call me an ambulance. I got in the ambulance, and I immediately knew something was wrong with me, because they started doing IVs and stuff. And, I'm just trying to go. I've had ambulance rides to the mental hospital before, and I'm not really understanding what they're doing. I get to the hospital, and they start telling me that my white blood cell count is so high. And then they put me to sleep. I wake up in the hospital, and apparently I was septic, okay, and my left kidney was almost completely shut down, and it was backing up. And for several weeks there, prior to everything that even went on with my uncle, I was hardly producing any urine. And I drink. You have to understand that I drank alcohol nonstop. So if you would put a bottle in front of me or a bag of dope, I'm going to choose the bottle. I'm going to drink the bottle. I'm going to end up getting the dope anyways.
Right.
But the bottle's going to come first. Always. As a matter of fact, I only used meth. I would feel like if I did some meth, I would be sober, from the alcohol. But of course I wasn't, and I was still, it was kind of like a cure-all, so I wouldn't feel so sick if I didn't have alcohol, you know what I'm saying? So I would drink lots of alcohol all the time, and I was hardly producing any urine. Well, when you're not producing urine, that shit's going in your bloodstream. And it was making me crazier than I already was from the drugs and being up and just everything that happened. Anyways, this social worker lady comes in there, she talks to me, and she asks me, they ask you if you have a safe place to go or whatever. Excuse me, I was in there for like 17 days, something like that. And they kept giving me IV antibiotics. They had to go in, they put a stent in, they did some stuff. And I get to talking to her, and she's like, well, you gotta, and I'm like, no, I really don't have a safe place to go. Like, I kind of give her a little details of, what's going on in my life right now. And she's like, okay, well, who's going to pick you up? And I'm like, I'm going to call this dude. He broke my leg and stuff, but it's cool. She's like, this guy broke your leg? And I tell her a little bit about that. And she's like, I to call Hope House for you. I was like, all right, whatever. So she called Hope House. They got me into Hope House. And one day, this is how I ended up. This is the first time that I got introduced to the program a little bit. See, Eric Gossi, I've known him a long time too. He had gotten sober at some point, and he kind of showed up to the house a little bit. And when people would show up to the house after they've been away for a while, I used to be mean to them. Because for me, if you've been gone for a while and you show up here, you're about to mess up your life. And so I wouldn't be very nice. We'll go ahead and let you in, and we're about to do this, but I'm not going to be mean to you, you know what I mean, before we can get down. And so, but Eric, when he showed up there, that's not what it was for. It was there for him to do something nice for my grandma, like mow her grass or say hello to her or check on her and then leave. He didn't stay and hang out with us. He didn't, you know, but he stopped by, and I kind of thought that he was a weirdo for that. I'm like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? I didn't really believe, you know, I knew something had changed about him, but I didn't know what it was. And, I just didn't understand, and I didn't really, I hate to say it, but I didn't believe it.
Right.
I thought it was a facade. And so I was sitting in the Hope House, and of course, that the Hope House has snapped out so many times. The Hope House decided that I needed to go to comprehensive mental health, that I needed some pills, or I needed something, you know what I mean? I needed some help. And so they had gotten me an appointment, and I was supposed to call my Medicaid, like a Medicaid cab or something. And, you know, I wasn't really into going to comprehensive, so I ended up not doing that. Well, the lady behind the desk up there told me, if you don't get to this appointment, you're probably going to get kicked out. I said, oh, okay. I'll snap out a little bit, and I go in a pod, and this girl starts talking to me, and first of all, I'm like, why are you talking to me? Because I am not okay still at this point. And she's like, well, call Artists for the Homeless. And I'm like, Artists for the Homeless? Like, if I wanted some homeless people to, you know, paint me something, like, you know what I mean? I don't know what you're talking about. You know, what are the Artists for the Homeless? Are we going to go draw something for people without a house? What are we going to do? She's like, no, call this number. They'll help you out. So I called the number, and they're like, I think it was Mr. Wu or somebody like that. And they're like, yeah, we're going to help you out. We'll help you get to comprehensive. And I'm like, there are resources for this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I did not know. I had no clue at all. I didn't know there was recovery houses. I didn't know there was a bunch of us running around, like, that all felt the same. I didn't know none of that. So this van pulls up, and I was thinking it would kind of be like some little dusty, crusty, you know, car or something. No, it was this nice van that was all wrapped with, you know, basically a promise on it, you know. And I get in the car, and it's Joey G.
Right.
And I don't know, he's kind of probing a little bit, like, well, you're here at this place, what are you doing, you know, are you trying to get right, or, you know, what's going on, or whatever. And he said something about AA. And I said, oh, my friend Eric Gossi says, you know what I mean, like, he pretends like that worked for him, or something like that. And he goes, oh, I know Eric. And, you know, Joey G was on fire at that time, so he's, like, all into it, telling me about it. And I'm like, this weirdo. So I'm like, all right. He drops me off, and he picks me up, and when he picks me up, he's got Eric on the phone. He hands me the phone. And, you know, Eric's like, Fox 4, working for you, 4 on the floor. You know, he still says all this real funny stuff that we used to say, you know, back when we were all crazy.
We
and
were geetered out.
Yeah, and he's like, so I got this wife, and her name's Rachel, and I'm going to give her a number. She's going to give you a call. Because if you want, you know what I mean, it seems like you're starting to get right or whatever. Whoop-de-whoop. And he's telling me, like, you know, he's just trying to push me off on his wife immediately.
Right.
And now I know what he was wanting to do was get me in touch with a woman in the program so that I could start to get what he got. But, you know, I didn't get that at the time. And also, I don't trust women at all. Because you got to remember, when I was 5 years old, a woman broke my heart. She betrayed me and did what she did and stole me from there, took me here. So, you know, I've always had that, I don't like women.
Right.
You know? And so Rachel had texted me or called me or something like that. And I'm like, all right, whatever. She picks me up. We go to a couple meetings. And I'm like, these people are weird. Too many people are talking to me. I don't need this. And, you know, when you're in Hope House, you have a counselor. And they have a couple of them for different, you know, scenarios, type of women. And she specifically deals with people that have addiction, you know, in the background. And she kept telling me things like the whole time, because she had realized that I was like, nah, I'm not doing the AA stuff. I don't like it. I don't like the people. I don't like them talking to me. I don't like, you know, this woman trying to help me. What does she want? And, she, you know, she never was like, you need AA. But she kept telling me little things like, you need to get something to believe in. And I've never seen anybody successfully do this alone. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, you're still going to be miserable. If you don't do this right, you're still going to be miserable. And come to find out, I was pretty dry the whole entire time. People say hello to me, I'd snap out on them. There's people at the Maple House. But apparently, my first time running into them or meeting them, when they said hello to me, I said some pretty terrible stuff to them. I don't even remember seeing them. They were that irrelevant. You know what I mean? Because it just made me uncomfortable when people talk to me. So, anyways, make a long story short, I decided I didn't need AA, and I stayed in Hope House for a very long time, like a year. It's kind of unheard of unless you're in one of their special programs, and I got this apartment. And I was out, you know, that's a controlled environment, so it's really easy to stay sober. And you got all these counselors and people helping you. There ain't really no time to use. Well, about, I don't know, a month and a half, there was a knock at the door. And this is a part of my story that I don't really share in meetings. I don't share out in the open. But I decided that I am going to share it because it's so taboo from the street life. But I'm going to go ahead and share it because if there's anybody who's out there who is on the fence about changing their life because they're loyal to a street code or these imaginary things that bind us to that lifestyle, I'm here to say that none of it's true. And there's a way out of it. And I don't owe anything to that life, to that code, to any of that stuff that I was taught because it doesn't have to be me. When I adapted to that lifestyle, when those type of codes and street laws became important to me, it was because that's all I had. And now that I know that that's not all I had, I owe nothing to that. I have no loyalties to that life. And so if someone is on the fence about it, they don't have to be. Anyways, back to the story. This lady knocks on the door, I look out the peephole, and she looks real nice, you know what I mean? Actually, there have been some people, somebody just came the other day from Maywood and left a present on my door. So there's people that have knocked on the door already since I'd lived there from Maywood. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I was thinking it was. I opened the door, and this woman is definitely not from Maywood, and she's not somebody that I want to see at all. She explains to me who she is. She gives me a piece of paper, and she says, you're being subpoenaed to testify in your uncle's murder trial. And, there's a couple things. I had a flood of emotions, a couple things I asked her. One of them, because in my mind, I'm thinking she would have never found out where I lived if someone hadn't have told her. So I asked her, how do you know where I am? How did you know where I lived here? Because I'm enraged at this point, like so enraged. And she says, your grandmother told me you were doing good and this is where you lived. So immediately, it fueled a resentment towards my grandma. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you putting me in this position? We're a year and some odd months past this. I don't want anything to do with this. I'm so selfish and self-centered, really, that I could care less if she needed justice or what she needed in her life. This meant that I had to do something that I did not want to do. So I basically told the lady that I had to think about this and that I wasn't into this. And she said, well, it's really not, I'm not asking you to do this. You're subpoenaed. And if you want to go down that road, we can. So I closed the door on her. And within 2 weeks, I was drunk again. And there's a lady that goes to Alive Again a lot. Her name's Miss Paula. She says that her addiction, I don't even know if that's the word she used, but basically she says that it sits outside the door and it does push-ups and it waits for you to come out. And it does, because it gets stronger. Within 2 weeks, right? Within, I don't know, maybe a week and a half, I was right back where I was before, drinking around the clock 24 hours a day. I had been a manager at McDonald's for that whole entire time I was at Hope House. And I started fist fighting people through the window. I was drunk all night. I had other employees. We started popping pills and drinking all night. Things went bad. I got maced in the drive-through window. That's a funny story. I would have maced me too if it was that bad. Anyways, we'll go back to the way things ended up. I had decided, especially drinking, when I'm drinking I get real suicidal because it's a depressant. It messes with your mind like that, and it makes it really easy to do those things. I had decided that dying was the only way to avoid having to get on the stand. And mind you, during this whole entire thing I am enraged at my grandma. Like, I just hate her, and I just can't understand why she's so selfish and see what she wants to put me through this. Now mind you, this whole entire time we did the things that we did in her house, she didn't do drugs. She didn't do any of that. As a matter of fact, for a long time, she went to work, and that's all we did in her house. She tried to take the basement door off of her house in order to stop us from doing what she did. We had her terrified in her own home for many, many, many years. However, I wanted to know why she thought she could put me in this position. come to find out, she wasn't even sleeping at night. She was sleeping like maybe an hour or two because he was in the county at the time. The person, you know what I mean? And like I said, I haven't said this yet, but I wasn't there. I wasn't there when it actually happened. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I even know for sure that this person, I mean, I know he was involved in it. The person that he left alive is the one who was really able to testify and to say exactly what happened to that night, not me. The only thing that I could say is that I got hit in the head with the gun went off. Well, I ended up, you know, I didn't get back on the meth, but my uncle's baby mama, she's the one that at her house that night my phone came up missing. I had always done drugs with her though, so I was well on my way to getting back on meth because I was hanging out with her. And I was over there and that happened, and when she took my phone, taking my stuff is a way to trigger me. Oh, it's a way to trigger me. I get extremely angry and violent. Don't touch my stuff. I grew up in a crack house, so if you went to sleep, there was a TV or a Nintendo or whatever. You wake up, and there wasn't one. And then they try to tell you that they don't know where it went or it wasn't there to begin with. They got burns on their lips, and you know what I mean? Like, and that's why I ended up joining them in that situation, because you know what I mean? Before long, because it's like, you go to turn the lamp on, and there ain't no cord.
There ain't no lamp.
No, there's a lamp, but there ain't no cord, you know. And then after the meth came, then there wasn't no light bulbs. You know what I'm saying? It's just there wasn't no antennas on stuff. You go to turn the radio on. Oh man, it was rough. And so, anyways, when that night when her mom put me out of there, in between, see, I had already imagined out wrecking my car, like just driving my car for thing, because I really wanted, like I said, death was the only way to not get on the stand. And I tried to run my car through her house. This is a God thing. This is really where, for me, God really started showing up in my life. And I was full-blown atheist. Well, I took my car as far up as I could. It's a street like this, and the house is right here. So, had there been a street like this, I'd have made it all the way through, and I'd accomplished what I needed to accomplish, and I definitely would have died in that, and I would have gotten whoever else was in the house in the front area. And well, when I came, I had to come down that way, and I swerved into it, and they had a white picket fence with some posts down in there that veered me off, but I went off the ledge and went down in here, and the people came. You know who the people are, and I remember them getting me out of the car, and I was just like, man, it didn't work. It didn't work. I've been so bad, and I've heard you share this before. I am so terrible at trying to kill myself. Like, it just does not work out. And so I go to the mental hospital, and I am there, and mind you, let me tell you that the trial was supposed to happen that week, okay? So, I'm in the mental hospital, and I'm like, I know how to get out of the mental hospital. I know how to stay in the mental hospital. But I'm like, okay. I'm not going to participate in anything. I'm not doing nothing. And you guys, you know what I mean? So, because I'm thinking if I'm in this mental hospital, this will go on without me. And I will not have, it's my backup plan. I mean, I didn't have that plan in the beginning, but now that I'm here, this is going to work out for me, right? And, I called my grandma's house, and she's like, there's a new court date. And I'm like, I take the phone and I start beating it, you know, I'm like, no. They, you know, when you act like that in a mental hospital, they usually surround you, and, you know, so they got me calmed down or whatever, and I was in there talking to this lady. I don't even know what she was. For all I know, she could have been, I know she wasn't one of the people that took your blood pressure or whatever, but I don't even know her title. And we're sitting there talking, and I just broke it all down for her, you know what I mean? And I explained to her what a snitch was, and how I felt about that, and how I felt about getting on the stand and all that, and how much I hated my grandma for this. And she's like, so you hate your grandma? Like, her baby died. Her baby was killed. And she just wants you to help her get some justice. And I'm like, bitch. I'm like, what? And then she's like, so normal people, when, you know, heinous crimes, or, you know, they're victims of crimes, or their loved one is murdered, they want to be a part of getting justice for that, you know? Normal people, if you're a victim, she's like, you just described to me what a snitch is. She said, did you commit any crimes with this person and try to tell on them? so that you didn't get in trouble? I mean, I'm not really understanding because you sound more like a victim here, you know, than you're in the street, you know, whatever with this. And I'm like, oh, I decided I didn't like her at all. I didn't want to talk to her anymore. Because, you know, it's just these things that she said, it clicked to me. And so the next day, I decided I was going to participate. Because I'm like, you know, I had processed the fact that the trial was moved away. And I'm like, I just want to get out of here and I want to drink. That's all I wanted was a drink. And see, when I go into those places, I'm already, you know, I start detoxing so bad that they give me Ativan and everything. So I knew I could get released with some Ativan and I could drink and things would be great. Maybe I could go that route and just take all the, you know, just do whatever. And so they always release you with some pills. So even if it's not narcotic or anything. So anyways, there's this group, and I go to a couple groups throughout the day. I remember we decorated some penguins or some dumb shit. And then there was this group where somebody brought the message in there. I didn't know it was really called that. And I can't even say that it was like an AA meeting. It was just someone coming in and you know, sharing their experience. And he was an old dude, and I didn't listen to a word he said because that was all. I was just in there, you know, to get out of there. But there was a notepad on the table. I pulled it up and set it there, and it just clicked. And I put pros and cons. I still have this book at home. I put pros and cons. I drew a line. I started writing this stuff. Respect for my daughter. You know, the opportunity to possibly see, you know, because I still hadn't seen my kid at this time. There was a long time where she didn't want to hear my voice because it reminded her of that night. Because my daughter was there. Like I said, I want to get into a bunch of details about it. But that night was traumatizing for my daughter. She's had quite a bit of therapy about it. She don't want to come back here. She has flashbacks. She has PTSD. She has, you know, my daughter survived actually a couple of home invasions. Like, she's been through some stuff, right? You know, I'm responsible for it all. So, anyways, at the bottom of the page, I said, do what you got to do to position yourself to be okay with testifying, like to be a normal. And I ended up getting released like maybe 6-7 days later, and I did get released with some Ativan and some depressants and stuff. When I got home, there was alcohol all over the house. I poured it out. I flushed the Ativan, and I called Rachel Gossi, and I said, let me try to not get emotional when I talk about this, because for the first time in my whole entire life, first of all, I made a decision many times. I made a decision. I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something different. I want to be different. I want to be better. I don't want to do this. This isn't me. Blah, blah, blah. This isn't who I am. But this is the first time I made a decision, and then I took action on it. And I called Rachel, and I said, I think I need you. Whew. And that was really hard for me to do with a woman too, you know what I mean? And it's like, I know the real Eric too, so I'm like, what's wrong with this chick?
Wow.
What's wrong with this chick, you know what I mean? Well, I didn't know the new Eric, you know what I mean? I only knew the old Eric, and I'm like, I don't know, you know, this is crazy, but alright. So she comes and she picks me up, and she takes me to the meeting, and I'm not ready for her to be my sponsor yet though, because I don't trust her, you know what I mean? But I'm like, I don't really need a sponsor, but we can start going to these meetings. We start going to these meetings, and thank God that I had those type of meetings. I share about this too, that I would have never made it at Winners or Live Again or really any of these other bougie meetings. I would have never made it because I needed that.
What was that?
That was raw.
First off, how long ago was that? Was this your
Maple House?
Was this the time that you been clean for this amount of time now? Or?
Yes.
So what day? How long ago was that?
That was August 28th, 2016.
So 4 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. So it was the good Maple House.
Yeah, I remember.
I don't mean to say that like that.
I remember that Maple House. There was one where the water leaked through the ceilings.
Yeah,
bed
the
bugs
cigarette smoke
everywhere.
and the little dead fish in the background.
The dead fish, yeah.
Yeah, and
great place to be.
Yeah,
Pictures on the wall.
Oh, I loved it.
Yellow walls.
Yeah, yellow walls.
I remember that place.
Dirty bathroom.
Nasty bathroom. No, never. Yeah.
Yeah, I fit right in there. I felt at home. You know what I mean? It was great. You know, Grandma's house wasn't like that, but I surely spent a lot of time in houses, you know, in the streets or, you know, in the trap that didn't have, you know, it was worse than that, really, places I chose to be.
So, the miracle that I see, I mean, just from listening to your story, is that you had absolutely no desire to even live, let alone get your life together, and then all of a sudden you did, and it's really cool. And it was all because of that lady, or just...
it was, it was all of it together. Joey G, if that wouldn't have happened then, that was God. God blessed me. God blessed me with him. God blessed me with artists. Actually, God blessed me with that chick that sat there and started talking to me that I didn't want talking to me, because she started giving me advice that I didn't want or need, telling about Artists for the Homeless, because, I'd have never thought to get in touch with Eric Gossi, because I didn't know that he had what I wanted even really at that time. But to get to the whole thing about testifying, started working with Rachel. It took a little bit, but I started working with her. Actually, she told me, I'm not going to tell her a funny story, but she told me a story that let me know that we were one of the same at one time. And, it's a funny story too, though. And I really liked it. I was like, oh yeah, you're sick just like me. And so we started working together, and, let's see, that was in June, July, August. It was all the way up to April. I don't know how many months it is. We're not going to sit here and try to figure it out, but it was in April when the trial happened, right? And so I had that time of sobriety under my belt. And by the time I had went in that room and had to face him, I had forgiven him. I had come to a place, and I know that my family would hate to hear me say this, but it's the truth. His actions that evening were the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. The best thing. If I could, you watch them shows on TV where you can start to have a relationship with the people that, that are in prison for it, I would. I've written him letters. I won't send it to him because I don't know, like I don't think it's appropriate. Because you need someone in the middle to do stuff like that, right. You know what I mean? But when I went in there, I was able to, another thing too, when I went in there now, if I would have went in there looking like I was looking like, you know what I mean? It just wouldn't have worked out. But I went in there and I had class, and I carried myself in a way. And I even, actually when I was there, I felt bad for him because he had no defense at all. You know what I mean? He had no defense. I was able to look at him in the eyes, and not in a mean way, not at all, but I made him break stare. Because at this point, my life was in a place, and it still is continued to be to this day, that I don't have to worry about. I don't owe the streets nothing. I don't owe none of that nothing. And
it's that 12-step program doing that for you.
That is what that is.
Yes.
That is where that came from, because
Yeah.
oh man, it's changed so much. So like I said, I was a 5th grade dropout, 30-year-old 5th grade dropout, and Maywood. That was another thing. Rachel, I seen her. I'd be over at her house, and she'd be doing schoolwork. She's getting her bachelor's degree or something, and I'm like, man, because at first I was like, there ain't nothing me and this girl could have in common. Because look at what she's doing with her life, you know what I mean? And she's like, well, you can get your GED at Maywood. That's another thing, Maywood. Maywood was a big thing, because, I was atheist my whole life. And, even as a little kid, I would be in meetings and I hear people talk about only praying when they get in trouble.
Yeah. I
didn't pray when I got in trouble. If I were to ever talk to God, it was when I was much, much younger. We're talking still 8, 9, 10. And it would be, a lot of, why are you doing this to me? I hate you. And then I ended up letting that go, and after that, there was never a God. It just wasn't a thing. As a matter of fact, if somebody was around me, especially getting high, you know what I mean, and you're trying to tell me about God, I would destroy your faith. I'd go into history, because I like to read books. I'm really a nerd. I'm definitely a nerd. So I could start throwing facts to people and just sitting there leaving them like, that ain't real, you know what I mean? Just tear people's faith up, and that's not a good thing. I'm glad that I don't do that to people anymore, because when I think about it now, these people, even we were in the same place, but they had a little bit of hope or a little bit of faith, and I did not, and that made me angry, so I wanted to take it from them. But Maywood, walking in that place, I had never, my idea of church was a place where you needed to be dressed up and prim and proper, and nobody understood anything. They just all, saints their whole lives.
It's definitely Maywood, huh?
No, I walked in that place and people had tattoos on their heads and tattoos all over the place, and nobody was dressed. People was dressed like thugs still, you know what I mean? There wasn't, you just come as you are and you could be who you are. And, but Maywood helped me get my GED, and that was such a life-changing thing in my life, because, like I said, I was a 5th grade dropout, and now, I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I am a 35-year-old accomplished, really a business lady.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that's how you started this story out.
Yeah, I can't, the blessings upon blessings upon blessings.
Yeah.
Maywood and the Maple House. It's been an amazing journey.
It's an amazing story.
Well, thank you.
You did really well, by the way.
I didn't go too far.
No, you did great. You did absolutely amazing. So, you do have some people that know you that want to know a few things about your recovery, though.
Uh-oh.
Are you ready for this?
Go on ahead.
So, Becky actually is someone who watches you on Facebook, follows you, who is really proud of what you've done. She works at Heartland.
Oh, yeah.
And
I love her.
She said, what did it take for you to gain independence as a woman?
Ooh, well, I kind of really didn't have an option. I can tell you this, that I was codependent, whether it be on my family.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as you heard about my story, everything led back to my uncle, and you know what I mean? But I also did that. I was also codependent on men in very toxic relationships. And kind of Hope House taught, that you did a lot of work in there, to work on yourself, to not have those type of relationships with men. But I didn't have an option. When I lost my job at McDonald's and I was able to survive just on my unemployment when I was getting my GED, it was not optional. Like, what I got from unemployment went on my rent. If I were to not be independent and I were to need to have to fall back on somebody, unfortunately my family is still very immersed in addiction and toxicity, and if I had to do that, then I would end up back where I was. And so I'm willing to do anything. I'm telling you, I would have scrubbed floors for $2 an hour if that's what it took. I don't know if that answered the question.
It did. Don't worry. There's no wrong answers for these.
All right.
So, what does a bad day look like? That's what Lester wants to know.
Whew.
Today, what's a bad day?
First of all, I'd like to say that I don't have a bad day.
That's what's up. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't have bad days. I just don't.
That's good.
I have bad moments. I've had some pretty tragic things happen. Now, don't get me wrong. I have some outside issues. I have mental health issues, and when the whole COVID thing started up, you know what I mean? It threw my routine off, and I had that routine. And if you live a healthy lifestyle, you can fight through these ups and downs of bipolar and stuff without medication. And so I ended up having to get back on medication because I have these down times. But I really don't have a bad day. Things can go wrong, and then I work it out and it gets better, and then I'm good again.
So this is kind of what don't you regret about your past?
What don't?
Yeah, Darren wants to know. Just so you know who asked this question. It was Darren.
What? I don't regret anything.
Merit, that's a good answer.
Nothing at all. Everything that has ever happened, and everything that I was, everything I did to somebody else, everything that was done to me, it makes me who I am today.
Yeah, made you a badass. What is Stephen Henke?
He
wants to know, what does love and tolerance mean to you?
Oh shit. So I was a very, 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 very judgmental. I gave you a little glimpse into that, how I was towards women. So love and tolerance. When I started, when I thought that I was unique, we all do. But I started listening to other people's stories, and I started seeing that everybody had a reason. I have my reasons why I am the way I am. I have the reasons why I'm so cold. I have the reasons why I'm detached from people. I got all these reasons for that. So these other people had those reasons. And I really, it's, you learn that too by the way that people treat you when you come to the program. When you walk in a room and people, you're all crazy and this, that, there, and the other, and they're loving and tolerant of you. So if I expect that from people and I was shown that, I try to give that to others. I try to just understand why they're reacting the way that they are, or, you know what I mean, what made them become that way. I don't know if that answers that.
Empathize. Says, what challenges have you gone through as a woman, like that only women go through in your recovery? Alicia wants to know that.
I don't relate to women, so I don't know what to say for that. I seen that question and I was like, what? Okay, so I mean, I am a woman. I'm a lady.
Yes, you are.
I was very confused at first, when I got there, because I had to be one of the boys. Not like gender confused, like in my mind, but I just had to be.
What's your pronoun?
That's right. It is 2021.
Yeah.
I use the women's restroom. Just throw it out there.
Good thing.
So what was the question again? Relating to women, struggles with relating to women. Do I get to phone a friend?
I mean, we could pass if you want.
We're gonna pass on
Okay,
that because
let's
I
go.
just don't know.
Heather Weeks wants to know what keeps you grounded today.
Whew. Well, prior to COVID, it was a meeting every day. I have to say, I meditate. And you know what? It started off with just getting up in the morning.
Like that.
Kinda. No, I take myself in my mind. I sit there quiet and still, and it didn't start off like that. It started off with morning meditation, like what I learned at the Maple House.
Yes.
And then and I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. I don't wake up every morning and still read that same shit anymore. I don't. I do pull out. There are. So when your ass falls off, I got a lot of books that I can. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. The whole time you wouldn't mess with me.
That's Fluttershy.
All right, so grounded. It's when I meditate, I imagine and take myself to a place. I really love the universe and the earth and things like that. So sometimes I can just imagine myself like becoming one with the tree. I don't know.
That's
weird.
what's up.
It's peaceful.
That's what's up. So Gina wants to know what has been your hardest obstacle that you've had to overcome in sobriety.
Besides the testifying, well, that actually turned out not to even be that hard. I would say learning to be a lady. Serious. It's been learned behavior. It's been hard, It's
You're doing a really good job.
Well, thank you.
Really
I think I've come pretty far thanks to the women in the program, and I have a 79-year-old sponsor. She's never done a drug in her life. She has. This is after Rachel, and then Casey. She has absolutely everything that I want to have. I didn't used to ever want to live that long. Now I want to live. I want to be her age, and I want to still be moving and grooving and doing what she does. And I want to present myself to people like she does. So
Angie Williams wants to know, how were you able to stay sober through tragedy, like your brother dying?
So when my brother died, actually I've had a lot of death this year, and I also dealt with my dad's death. And with my dad and my brother, I did not see them very much at all prior to their death. With my dad, I definitely, it was 2 years in, I didn't see him at all because him and I were drinking buddies. Not only were we drinking buddies, but we were drinking and fist fighting buddies. So, I didn't, and my dad was real sick for a long time. And so I didn't go over there. But I spent all that time in the hall. One of the things about being in AA, there's also a phone, and there's people that are willing to just be with you the whole time. There was a couple people from Winters that they said, in the hospital at that time, it was really hard to get in there to see him and to get up because of the COVID. And these people sat outside in the car, just like sat in the car waiting for as long as it took in order for me, you know what I mean? I survived tragedy and was able to stay sober because it never even dawned on me to pick up a bottle or do some meth. It just didn't even dawn on me, but I had people surround me, you know what I mean, with love. Not necessarily, actually Lester Deckard is the only one that he actually showed up to my house. Most people know that I don't appreciate that. But I actually do appreciate that because that was, you know what I mean? That was a real kind thing for him to do. And Lester actually, he'll call me and check on me, but really it was the people in AA and being able to go to the hall even when there wasn't a meeting going on.
That's what's up. So Barbie wants to know what impacted your recovery the most, and I want to know who impacted your recovery the most.
What impacted my recovery the most? Oh, I'll go ahead and answer the who first. It's hard to just pick one person, but we'll go back to really early recovery. The only person that really reached me in that room was Rick Holiday. His meetings, his Tuesday meetings, those big meetings. The rest of it was really just shitting, horsing around and being funny. And, if you talked for more than... Yeah, well, if you talked for more than 45 seconds, I stopped listening to you anyways. But when it come to those meetings, I listened the whole time. And what was it? What was Barbie's?
What impacted you the most? I mean, sounds like the book study.
Yeah, we could say that. Yeah.
So Stephanie Bond, you know her? Stephanie Bond, she says, and she wanted me to just share this with you.
All right.
She said, I really just want to tell her that she was the sweetest, most beautiful little girl when I knew her at such a young age.
Oh, yes. Yes.
4 years old, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy our paths have crossed again in life. It's remarkable, really, to have known you then and know some of what you've been through since and see you living out an awesome recovery now. I think so much of the woman you become and keep going strong through all of your days.
Oh, that's awesome. I thought you said Bond. No, Bond.
Stephanie Bond.
So when I was in California, I would come out to Kansas City for 3 or 4, maybe 5 weeks out of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and forth actually a few times. It wasn't just during the summer because the man that was raising me would let me come see, my family here. And Stephanie she was the hot girl that lived across the street that all my uncles wanted to holler at or wanted to watch her out the window. They were kind of creeps, but she watched me. She used to babysit me. She was my babysitter. And she had the most long, beautiful hair. She still does. You know what I mean? She's like the only person I know that gets prettier with age. She does. She's gorgeous. Mm-hmm.
You made it. You're done.
I know, right?
So you mentioned the Hope House. You mentioned Comprehensive. You mentioned artists helping the homeless. You mentioned the Maple House.
Alive Again winners.
Alive Again. Is there anything else that if someone was to approach you today, because they see this video, and are you willing to share yourself and talk to them?
Yes. So that's my next life goal. Okay. So I kind of did this. This is something too. My advice to somebody is not to ever compare yourself to anybody else in the program or around you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't compare yourself to their walk with God, where they're at with Jesus, where they're at in the church, where they're at in the program, or where they're at getting their life together, financial, any of that stuff, because it all took different things to get us sick, and we all got sick to different levels. We all did different things in our sickness. There's so many levels to stuff, and just paying attention to what somebody else is doing will take the focus off of yourself, and that's not good. But I have done everything else besides be able to really connect and help people, and I would like to do that.
That's what's up.
I come off unkind or cold, and that's not what it is, because I'm really a little secret of tough girls. We're like the most sensitive and have the biggest hearts. It's just really hard to share that. You know what I mean? It's a learned thing, and so that's my new life goal. I got everything else aced in the hole.
So her name is Christy. We don't know her last name, but I do know where she lives, and I do know where she hangs out. So come holler at me. We'll find her. Since she won't give up her last name, but that's it though. Thanks for tuning in.